Well, President-elect Trump is blasting China after his phone call with the president of Taiwan caused a weekend uproar. Mr. Trump went on Twitter last night attacking China over the value of its currency, taxing U.S. products, and its military buildup in the South China Sea. Friday's phone call was the first between Taiwan's president and any American leader since 1979. China said just this morning the One China policy, recognizing Chinese sovereignty over Taiwan, is the most sensitive issue between the U.S. and China.
Ian Bremmer is with us to talk about Mr. Trump, Taiwan, and China. He is founder and president of Eurasia Group, a global political risk consulting company. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you.
So it is reported that they thought long and hard about doing this. So it was intentional. Is that your reading of it?
My reading is that there are a few people that are in the transition team around Trump that have been talking to the Taiwanese for some time and love the idea of reaching out. I don't believe that Trump had the sense personally that by having a phone call as president-elect with the Taiwanese president that he was setting policy. And we saw that reaction from
somebody have
Conway.
said that to him?
Depends on what they were trying to accomplish and how coherent the team is on foreign policy. On economics, the team ideologically agrees with each other. They get along pretty well. On foreign policy, they're not really put together.
So the question
yet.
is, what's the impact of it?
I think the impact is significant. I mean, Xi Jinping definitely, to the extent that there is any real red line for them with the United States, it's Taiwan and the new nationalist government in Taiwan. So this is going to start the U.S.-China relationship off in a much more contentious manner. The fact that Trump followed it up with a series of tweets that talks about currency manipulation, South China Sea military expansion, these are all, red rags for problematic U.S.-China relationship. And I don't have a problem with a tough line against China if it's well thought through. But I was just in Asia, as you know. When you go talk to the Singaporean prime minister or other allies in the region, they see that the Trans-Pacific Partnership has failed. They don't see Trump at all as someone who is a strong and consistent ally for them. So the United States could be picking a fight with China. Our allies haven't been brought into this one bit.
All right, whether it was out of ignorance or some plan to send a message to China, what's the downside diplomatically? What could be the repercussions?
Well, if there's one thing in foreign policy that you need to get right as the president today, it's the U.S.-China relationship. It's the most important bilateral relationship in the world. And, if we're not working well with them and our allies don't think that we're consistent, they're all going to be tilting towards China. Look, the world that we have evolved over the past decades is one where American corporations feel like they can actually do a lot of business in all these countries. That gets harder. China's the leading trade partner for every single country in Asia, not the United States anymore. The negotiating environment's getting harder for us.
Another way to send a message to China is about the U.S. relationship with Japan.
Sure.
And what do we see there with the Trump administration?
I think with Abe getting right on a plane, flying over, giving him a golf club, very different than Merkel saying, well, we want to make sure the values are good. The strongest U.S. ally in the world under a Trump administration may well be Shinzo Abe's Japan. He doesn't have internal populism, but that by itself isn't going to get you what it used to. Let's put it that way.
Ian, you also tweeted this: silver lining from Trump-Taiwan call and resulting furor. More likely he appoints a capable, experienced Secretary of State. What then to make of the list in this context?
Well, the fact that Giuliani, who is clearly who Trump wanted in the early days, but they recognize that he just doesn't have the capacity to do the job. They've expanded the list. They're looking for other people. That's not the way Trump likes to run, his Red Rose ceremony on, sort of reality contestants for Secretary of State. The four finalists should be the four finalists. The new people he's talking to are pretty competent and coherent. I mean, you talk about John Huntsman and David Petraeus. I mean, whatever you think about them, these are people with real life experience. They're treated seriously when they travel outside the U.S.
Let me just come back to your point, though. My impression is before this incident that our allies in the Pacific wanted us to stand up to China because they feared the encroachment of China.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the ways they wanted us to stand up to China wasn't just militarily. It was the most important multilateral trade deal that the United States tried to set up for decades, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Trump has reiterated he's out. day one, wants nothing to do with it. So literally every American ally in Asia, including Mr. Abe, put big political capital on the line to get TPP done. Now, in the case of Abe, he doesn't have any internal opposition, either within his party or outside. He can come to the U.S., talk to Trump, doesn't even mention it. It's not a problem for him. But for every other ally, like in South Korea, where they're probably about to get impeached, the president, it's a real problem. Not because of trade. But the point is that it's much harder for them to say, oh, it's no big deal that Trump isn't going forward with a really big strategic deal that was going to allow us to be more aligned with the United States.
Thanks.
Ian Bremmer, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.